Oh, and yes, make sure you email counselor if you would like a copy of this presentation. Okay. So tonight, I have some information from our senior class sponsor. We also are going to have an introduction of the senior counselors, and we have an introduction of our counseling office staff because we have had some staff changes over this last year. We are going to talk to you guys about preparing for the senior year and post high school options. We're also going to talk about the college application process. We do realize that college is not the only option after high school, but we usually do a senior survey with our seniors at the end of the school year. And typically about I probably say around 90% say they do plan to go to college. So we do spend a good deal of our presentation on that, but we do know that there are other options and we will discuss some of those tonight as well. And then we're going to talk about financing your students' education, and we have a couple of announcements for you guys. Okay, so these next couple of slides are from our senior class sponsor. They are on Parkview's website. So if you go to Parkview's homepage, then under parents and students, you can click where it says senior information. So all of the information on these slides is on the website, and I am the messenger for this. So I am relaying this information to you all. And I did want to mention, if you do have a question, please utilize the chat feature, and one of the other counselors online will help answer your question. So we should have the chat feature enabled for you to send your questions. So that's the link for the senior website. Again, it's on Parkview's homepage. And then under parents and students, click where it says senior information. Currently, senior dues you pay through Scholastic Images, and there is a link on that senior website. So it's not through My Payments Plus, it's through Scholastic Images. And currently, it is $165. Senior dues cover the cap and gown. There's a senior lunch event, senior picnic event, and a senior breakfast. And on February 1st, the price is going to increase $25 per package. And we want you to go ahead and pay that as soon as you can, so that way you get a better deal, and to make sure that you have the correct t-shirt size for the senior picnic. Scholastic Images did come to our campus already this school year. Don't worry, they're coming some more, but they were there on 9/8, and they did meet with all the seniors in a senior class meeting, provide them with this information. Senior t-shirts, it has the price for the t-shirt, the long sleeve t-shirt, sweatshirts, and those will be sold on October 15th and October 17th in the cafeteria, and you can pay by cash, check, credit card, Apple Pay. The senior panoramic picture is going to be in the stadium on October the 22nd during seventh period. So please go ahead and make sure your senior knows to be at school on October 22nd, because they're going to take that picture of all the seniors. It's really nice. Then the senior breakfast is going to be on February the 11th in the cafeteria during second and third period. All seniors must attend the senior breakfast to pick up the senior packet, and the breakfast will be catered. So again, that's on February the 11th. This year's senior week and the senior picnic are going to be in April, so April 20th through April 24th, with the senior picnic being on that Friday, I believe is it's usually on a Friday, the 4/24. And seniors can pick up their cap and gown during that picnic. All seniors have to have paid senior dues in order to receive a senior picnic t-shirt, and students do have to wear that senior picnic t-shirt to go to the senior picnic. Um, and I believe I know sometimes people ask if they're absent, if there's something kind of circumstance like that that comes up, feel free to contact the senior class sponsor. Honors night is going to be on April the 24th. That's by invitation only. Senior letters, those are due by May 1st, and they can be sent to the school. So you put attention, Maureen Atwood at Parkview High School, and it says letters only, no gifts or money, etc. There's going to be a mandatory senior letter and practice. It's going to be usually on the day of graduation, which is May 20th. And we always have to say it's tentative because the board has to approve that in March, but it's always been the very last day of school, so May 20th. And it'll be at 8:30 is when the practice is at Parkview Stadium, and each senior will receive 8 tickets at practice. And all fines must be paid and books checked into get their tickets. And breakfast is included at the practice. And then woohoo, graduation on May the 20th at 8 p.m. Seniors must report to Mountain Park Park by 5:30 to get bus to Parkview, and the Parkview Stadium gates will open at 6:30 p.m. And again, I am the messenger of this, as we all are. Miss Anne-Marie Reynolds, her contact info is on this slide. It's also on the website, but all this info is on the website. But should you have any questions, concerns, please feel free to reach out to her. And Scholastic had contacted me. They wanted me to put this in here. So as you can see, they were at school in September, but they are coming back on Monday, October 27th. You see they're going to come in December, January, February, March, and April. The cap and gown delivery will only be at the senior picnic, but they'll also be there on in May. So, and then there's a QR code there, and that's scholasticimages.com, where students can order their packages for the cap and gown. That's what the senior dues paid for, along with the other things. So they have the different packages there. There looks like there's 3 different ones to choose, and there's little plaques and things like that. So all kinds of good stuff. But again, that is there. And I think you could see the email. It's kind of, might be kind of small. It's office@scholasticimages.com, should you have any questions about those packages. Okay. And to tell you guys about the senior class. This was just kind of a close up about where the senior class announcements are and senior sponsor, but I'm going to hand it over to Miss LeMake now.
Hey everyone. Yeah, so if you look on the Parkview webpage, so just Google Parkview, you will see the senior class announcements are right under. You've got to click on the parent and student tab and then go down to the senior information, and there's a bunch of information. It lists all the activities that are going to be taking place. There's also even information about where to pay the dues. There's a link there to do that. And there's also information on senior pictures. We also include some staying up to date information on our counseling website. So if you go to the counseling tab, you can book counseling appointments, which we usually ask only students can book appointments through there. Parents can, but you really should give us a heads up, because a lot of times if we have a parent and student, it'll take a little bit longer, and most of our appointments are about 20 minutes long. So if you could just kind of email your child's counselor if you would like an appointment with them. And then there's also information on the College and Career Center and the senior counseling information, where we put all the information about our PowerPoints. And we have a new process for applying to college, and that's using school links instead of Naviance. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But all that information is under the senior counseling information. If students need help, all they have to do is ask. They can come into Building A, where our counseling suite is housed, and there's QR codes that they can scan to make an appointment. Or if they happen to have lost their phone for a little while or something, they can always make an appointment with the counseling secretary, and she will set up an appointment with one of us. And then there's also, near the school store, we're in the cafeteria on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Counseling office staff includes Mrs. Talik, who is our office manager. Again, she can help with appointments uh, and all those good things. The one thing I really want you to think about for her is requests for records. So if a student needs a record for college or something like that, or they're going up to a college to visit them, they can just pay $5 and get a request for records from her. She also helps with work permits. Then we also have Miss Ventura, who is the registrar, and she helps with a lot of things as far as records coming and going from other schools, and works with counselors on that. But the main thing I want you to really think about with her is she inputs social security numbers. And I'll tell you 2 ways that you can find out if we have your child's social security number on file. And if not, we need either the copy of the card or the card itself to put that on file. And it's needed for Hope Scholarship. Ms. Ramos is the counseling office college and career liaison. She has a bunch of information on careers. She can do a career interest inventory with your student if they're not sure what they want to do. She helps with colleges, that's technical colleges, the 2-year colleges, 4-year colleges, financial aid, and we'll get them set up with the right website. She has military contacts where she has people come in and students can ask the Army or the Marines or the Air Force, whichever branch they're interested in, they can set them up with a recruiter to talk to them about those different programs. She also has test prep materials that they can borrow, and she lists all our scholarships. She has computers in her room so students can see different programs that they can use from home in order to help further their search. And she has her own website. The College and Career Resource Center, this is kind of what it looks like. It's actually located, it says in the Collaborative Learning Center, but I believe they changed the name to the Library Media Center this year. So it's basically the school library. So it's inside there, and then they schedule an appointment, or she allows walk-ins during advisement, and she can schedule an appointment the same way that you schedule appointments with counselors, either at the counselor corner or by coming into the counseling office and scanning the QR codes. The College and Career Center's website is located also off of the main page of the Parkview website. Just click on the counseling tab again, and then there's a College and Career Center tab. And if they click on that, they will see there's a place that they can click a button in order to get to her website. And she has lots of things included on her website, including a calendar of events. So right now there's a lot of military visits. So students can talk to military personnel if they're interested in joining after they get out of high school. Also, she does list things about schools coming on certain days, and sometimes there's even days that they can apply to certain schools for free. You know, always look for those things on her calendar of events, and all the students have to do is just email her and tell her that they're interested in this. For 11th and 12th grade counselors, we have Miss Salo. So we changed our caseloads a little bit this year so we were more evenly distributed. So Mrs. Salo has A through E, C, H, O, and Miss Salo is there waving. She was the one who was speaking first. I have ECHP through LUON. My name is Miss LeMank. I tell everybody rhymes with bank. Don't look at the spelling, just think it rhymes with bank. And so here I am. And then Miss Brewer is LUOO through REMY, and there she is. And then Miss Marta Rosian is REMZ through Z. So if you forget, we have it listed on our website as well. Just make sure you check it before making appointments, because sometimes students and parents just assume that they're with the same counselor and it might have changed. Then we also have 9th through 10th grade counselor. We have Miss Melhorn, Miss Fernandez, and Miss Odom. Miss Melhorn helps with NCAA, National Clearinghouse, registration. So if a student comes in and asks about that, those are for athletes going to Division I or Division II colleges to play sports. She may help students with that, but otherwise, one of these counselors, sometimes we have a counselor on call that deals with emergencies for the day when the counselors are not available. And so they may meet with your student sometime. Then we have the counseling staff contact information. Pretty much for all of us this year, it's going to be the first name dot last name at gcpsk12.org. None of us have a middle name to make it our names stand out from other people in the county who also have the same name. So you just have to remember first name dot last name. And then things to do for the senior year. Of course, earn credits towards graduation. Some students will have outside credits that they're trying to get a hold of it as well. And also, there may be some students doing credit recovery, so keep that in mind. You could use the planning calendar on the counseling website telling you what they should be doing kind of each month and how they get ready for colleges. They should start to research schools, careers, and other post-secondary options. And then there's to-do lists that they can put together for college apps and financial aid. They could make an appointment with their counselor, and also make an appointment with a college and career liaison. We're going to go over a senior application for graduation with each student. We've already been meeting with students who are a little bit academically behind and telling them other outside credits to get beyond their schedule at Parkview. But the other students that are pretty much on track, we will go into their advisement classes and we will have them sign this form and give it back to us. If you notice the highlighted area, it says student social security number. So this is the first way that you can see if your social security number is on file. If a student brings this home and it says yes, then they're fine. If it says no or it's blank, then you need to give us a copy of the card or the card itself. It's important for Hope Scholarship. Then on Georgia Futures, Georgia Futures has a bunch of things for students, including students can send transcripts to Georgia colleges for free. If they ask the secretary to send it for them, they'll have to pay on My Payments Plus to do this. The Georgia Match program, where they'll get letters saying which colleges they match up with as far as the requirements are concerned. The students still have to apply and they may or may not get in, but it's just letting them know that these things are available for them. It helps with applications, career testing, financial aid, scholarships, and also they can check their Hope GPA on this website. And so that's the second way that they can check to see if their social security number is on file. Because if they put it on this website and it doesn't match up with our records at our school, then you can tell that pretty much they don't have their social security number on file. So we would need both of those for the Hope Scholarship. Post-high school options can include the military. Some students enlist and go to college later. Some students will go into the reserves, where they go to college while they're in the military. There's ROTC programs such as at North Georgia. And then there's also military academies, which are the hardest to get into. Students actually have to get a nomination from or recommendation from a senator in order to do that. But Ms. Ramos has weekly lunch visits with recruiters, and students can find out more about that. There's also some job apprenticeships, and there's over 100 different programs in Georgia, and she would have more information about that too. Post-high school options include technical colleges, and I'm not talking about Georgia Tech. I'm talking about Gwinnett Technical College and Lanier Technical College, the 2-year programs or less. And there's also 2-year colleges where students can end up with an associate's degree. The main one around here is Perimeter at Georgia State. And then there's also 4-year colleges. So applying to all of these is about the same. The students will go to the website and then start the application process by getting on their application. Industry fields to consider. There's a lot of jobs out there that don't require 4-year degrees. So this is just an example of some of those programs, and they usually are certificate or diploma programs, which takes usually 2 years or less to pursue these, and they're very high-paying jobs. And here's some more. The electrical lineman is the one that climbs the telephone poles. And there's just, again, all these different things. Atlanta area is becoming known for movies now, so they need movie production and set designers. And a lot of these programs, students may be pursuing already at Grayson or Maxwell. So it might be something that they want to continue at a technical college. And then college degree ranges. We did go over this with students in the classroom a couple of weeks ago, and we just kind of went through, look at the bachelor degree salary ranges and the master's degree salary ranges and the doctoral degree salary ranges. And if you look at that, usually as you go up in education, your salary also goes up. Now that isn't, true for everyone, and we do point that out, but for the most part, it is true for most people. Okay, next I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Tori Brewer, who is going to go on about how to start the college application process.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Mrs. Brewer. I'm going to walk you through the next part of our presentation this evening on how do you help your student with the college application process. So here's the big points to consider, the important dialogue with your student. Definitely want to talk about the financial aspects of college, what it costs. That's the huge bottom line that we don't want to make taboo. We want to make sure that we're upfront and talking about it so that we know what we need to do as far as scholarships, as far as financial aid upfront, and whether a school is feasible for your family situation. Okay. Also, the admission requirements, making sure that your student is looking into these schools and what their requirements are. If they have a GPA requirement, if they have SAT and ACT requirements. All of your students who are planning on going to 2 or 4 year schools probably have a program that they have in mind, a major or a major and minor, or at least a career field that they're interested in. So you want to make sure that the schools that they're looking at match those programs and departments. Make sure that they're going somewhere that will actually align with their career goals. The faculty and student ratios, you want to know what the classroom size is. If you want your student to go somewhere where they're going to have more individualized time and instruction, then we definitely want to look at somewhere that has those smaller ratios. Location, location, location. Do you want to have your student stay close to home? Do they want to go far away? Are they going to thrive in a city environment? Are they going to thrive in a rural environment? Do they need to be in a suburban area? What's important to you? What needs to be nearby? Living arrangements is something huge to look at. Some schools do require their freshmen to live on campus, and that's something that's important as you're looking at budgeting, whether or not you're thinking about tuition or room and board, and all of those things, meal plans that go into that. If it's a requirement for them to stay on campus, what do those dorms look like and what are the costs associated with it? The makeup of the student body is also really important to make sure that your student is going to feel comfortable in their environment that they're going to be for 2 to 4 years, okay? And then their present enrollment, you definitely want to look and see how many of their applicants they're admitting, how many people are actually graduating and finishing, and what their reoccurring enrollment looks like. Whoa, that was weird. Okay, hopefully I'm back. I don't know what happened. Thumbs up if you can hear me. Am I back? Okay, awesome. Thank you.
We can hear you.
All right. So safety of campus, making sure that your student is going to be in a safe environment. Great. All right, so how to research information on colleges of interest. Definitely visiting those college websites. Make sure that your student and you are taking the time to look at those college websites and see exactly what this school is. What's their mission statement? What's their vision statement? What is their important, what importance do they put on your child's education, okay? Attending college fairs is huge. That gives you an opportunity to meet with the representatives of the schools that your student is looking at, okay? Scheduling a campus visit or a virtual visit. In-person visits with college representatives at Parkview is huge. We do bring those representatives out to the school. And then various websites such as the collegescorecard.ed.gov and then collegenavigator.ed.gov are also really great sites to use. And then also, we talked about Ms. Ramos in the College and Career Center. She is an absolutely wonderful wealth of knowledge for your student with their college questions. All right, let's talk about tips for campus visits. This is really exciting as you start to take your students on these campus tours. What's important? Making sure that you complete a prearranged absence form with Parkview attendance office is huge. Make sure that that absence is excused, okay? Plan in advance, decide what you want to see and who you want to talk to while you're there. Contact the school in advance for a formal visit. We're going to make sure that we're not just popping up expecting to see the entire campus. They have the formal visits where they can have the packets ready for you, where they can have everything structured for you to meet the people you need to meet, okay? Reading the college literature. Don't go onto the campus visit blind. Make sure that you know a little bit about it before you go. Prepare a list of questions and don't be afraid to ask them. The campus reps that are giving these tours are 100% okay with all of your questions and they are there to answer them. Make sure that your student takes a copy of their transcript and their SAT or ACT scores. A lot of times when they go on these visits and in these tours, they're able to actually apply to the school while they're there. And so if they have all of this stuff with them, it's a very easy transition into the application process. Make sure that you are on time. On time means early. Be yourself. Make sure that your student is comfortable with being themselves. If this is a school that they're going to consider being at for 2 to 4 years, again, you want to make sure that they feel comfortable being there. And then keep a journal of your thoughts and impressions. Feel free to take pictures as well. What some of the students have been doing is like video blogs while they're walking around on campus during their tours, taking videos, talking about what they've seen and what they like so they can review it later. And then using a college comparison worksheet to record information. And most importantly, write thank you notes for all the people that actually helped you during your college tour. Make yourself stand out. All right, so upcoming college fairs. Parkview actually hosted a probe fair in our cafeteria a couple weeks ago, but the college probe fairs are still going on and there are still some happening at other high schools in Gwinnett. So make sure that if you're a student and you did not attend the probe fair at Parkview, you can always go onto their website and find where the next ones are in our area to be able to see them. The probe fair brings out between 60 and 90 college representatives from different schools within the state and surrounding areas to be able to talk to your student, talk about their programs, what they have to offer, and help with making that decision a little easier. So 19 out of 26 of USG institutions will be test optional depending on GPA starting fall 2026 term. You can see the official announcement by searching the USG test optional announcement. The SAT and ACT are still required for the following schools: Georgia Tech, UGA, Georgia College and State University, Augusta University, Georgia State University, Georgia Southern, and Kennesaw State. All right, so let's talk about the role of admissions tests. Most colleges in Georgia may be test optional at this point. However, we did just talk about some of those that are huge for some of our students, and on the list of schools that they're looking at going to, and they do require those tests. So some of the scholarships may still require test scores. Zell Miller, for example, requires that you have a certain score on the SAT or ACT in order to qualify. And then depending on a student's GPA, they may still be required to take the SAT or ACT to complement their transcript. How to request those test scores once you've taken it through the registration and testing website. So College Board, the ACT, those are the places that you'll request those scores. And then should our students take the test more than once? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Take it as many times as they can so that they can always use that high score and be able to have an advantage so that they didn't take it just once or twice. And then are fee waivers available? Fee waivers are available for students who meet specific qualifications. And if you think that your student may be eligible for that, definitely have them come and see their counselor or Ms. Ramos in the College and Career Center. Okay, so the roles of tests in college applications. So the college admission tests that you're going to see the most are the SAT, the ACT, and the AccuPlacer. And then how do colleges use these test scores? This is why it's so important that your student take the test. They use the test scores as the common standard. Here's what that means. The common standard basically says schools all across the country use the same 4.0 or 5.0 GPA standard. However, depending on the rigor, the AP, the IB classes that they offer, a 4.0 in one school may not be equal to a 4.0 in the other. So they use these test scores as a way to level the playing field and see what the curriculum taught your student, how advanced they are in their knowledge of certain topics, and that is what makes your student stand out against someone else that may have the exact same GPA, but they may not have had the same rigorous course load. Okay, what else do colleges consider? They consider grades, they consider courses, extracurricular activities, recommendation letters, essays, interviews, community service. If your student has not been a part of any extracurricular activities, joined any clubs, done any community service, this is a great time to start. That really does help with buffing up their application and putting additional things, because these colleges aren't just looking at their academics, but they're looking at what they're going to bring to the campus environment as well. And then how important are scores to colleges? It varies from college to college. Some schools are very strict on their scores. When you think about UGA or Georgia Tech, other schools have a little bit more leniency. Okay, let's talk about the difference between the SAT and the ACT. So the SAT is more of your aptitude test. It's going to test the verbal and reasoning abilities. It's looking at what you learned in high school and what you need to succeed in college. The ACT is an achievement test. So that's measuring what the student has learned in school and then gaining the understanding of their college and career readiness. Okay, both of these tests are $68 unless you qualify for the fee waiver. The ACT has a writing and science add-on. The writing add-on is $25. The science add-on fee is $4. And then these are some of the upcoming dates. The September dates have now passed, but the October, November, December dates are the ones that are remaining for this year. The topics are different on these tests. So the SAT is covering your reading, your writing and language, and math. Your ACT is covering reading, English, math, with science and writing being optional. Okay. The scoring on these are also different. So on the SAT, you're looking at 200 to 800 per section with the reading and writing and math, with the composite scores ranging anywhere between 400 to 1600 being the max that you can score. The ACT is 1 through 36 per section in composite, and then a 2 through a 12 for writing. Okay, so SAT and ACT fee waivers. The fee waivers are available for students that receive free and reduced lunch, or there may be other situations that apply. Again, if you believe that your student is eligible, please have them come talk to Ms. Ramos or their counselor. SAT students can directly request those fee waivers through College Board. They log into their account, they submit the request, make sure that they put their counselor's name and email address on who can verify their request and eligibility. College Board then sends an email to the counselor of record, and then we're able to double check their eligibility and then click a button that allows them to receive that fee waiver. It is a very quick process. The SAT fee waivers are available through students' College Board account if one was used last school year. And then the ACT, we still don't have the ACT fee waivers that I know of at this point. We're still waiting on them, but as soon as we have them, we'll be able to also give those out to our students. Okay, well, that I believe is my time. So I am going to now pass it off to Ms. Matarazzi.
Thank you so much. Good evening. So in this section, we will talk about what colleges consider during application process. So thankfully, nowadays, most colleges look at students holistically. It is no longer just the GPA and just the scores and the ranks. It's everything combined. So for that reason, meeting minimum requirements of the college does not guarantee admissions. It is not uncommon for two students to apply to the same school. One has higher scores and grades in GPA, and the second one may not have as high grades and scores in GPA, but they have extracurriculars, they have rigor in their schedule, they have awards and essays and 2 jobs and speak a different language, and they get in while the other students with higher scores do not. So it's a holistic approach. Here we wanted to share some freshman profiles for schools that are considered our top schools. This is where most of our students at Parkview High School decide to go. So the first one is the University of Georgia. This is for the class that they just admitted, 2025. You can see how many applications they received in total, how many were accepted, how many enrolled, as well as their scores. And what they're providing us here is their middle 50%, which means that there are still students that got in with lower scores, and there are some students that got in with higher scores, of course. You see their core GPA as well as SAT and ACT scores. Next, we have Georgia Tech. That's also one of our top schools, and you see their data on the slide before you. Georgia Tech is very difficult to actually find data on. They sometimes tell us that they're no longer tracking some data, so this is the best that we could find, but it may not be absolutely accurate because, as I mentioned, they don't like to share their statistics. This is Georgia State University. Kennesaw University. And when looking at the SAT, I know we use a lot of acronyms in Gwinnett County or in education in general. EBW stands for evidence-based writing. So it's the writing section of the SAT. And last but not least, we have Emory University. And now we'll talk about what your students should be doing next. So number one, of course, is starting to work on their applications. We have a lot of students, unfortunately, that are maybe worried or scared. Sometimes they're feeling overwhelmed and stressed out that they're not even starting the process, which is only making it worse in the end. What I always tell my students, is that you don't have to complete the application right now, but at least open it, see what it looks like, see what questions they're asking you, see if something does not make sense, so you can come and ask us in advance. And the hardest part often is starting. Once students start, typically it gets easier and easier from there. We, of course, recommend that they read the instructions before they begin. Usually they just Google the name of the college, and one of the first few links will take them exactly where they need to be, and then it will take them to that application. So one point of confusion for a lot of our students and families sometimes is sometimes students are afraid to submit their applications because they're still waiting on their SAT scores to arrive at the college, or maybe they're waiting for their letters of recommendations to come from their teachers. But what's important to know is that parts of an application are not received or sent at the same time. So it's practically impossible for colleges to receive the application and the scores and the transcripts and letters of recommendation at the same time. So students should not be waiting for those supplemental materials. They can go ahead and apply first, and then all the other things will start coming in as well. So as long as the college receives all of the materials by the deadline, there should not be any problems. There are different deadlines when applying to colleges. Right now, we're in the early application season. October 15th is a big deadline, as some of you will probably know from your students. So that's for students who are applying early. A lot of our top schools here in Georgia will have that deadline. And then, of course, there are regular admissions that will happen, generally speaking, January on, depending on the college. There is a myth going around that if you apply early, you have more chances of admission. That, however, is not true at all. We've spoken to several admission representatives over and over again, and they confirm that just because somebody applies early does not guarantee admission and does not give them more chances of getting in. Now, there are benefits of applying early, of course. Primarily when we talk about scholarships, a lot of colleges have a priority deadline, which happens to be in the early admission time period, where students who apply by that priority deadline are automatically considered for scholarships, institutional scholarships at that college. So there may be benefits to applying early, but applying early does not lead to more chances of admission. And within the early application process, there are two types of early as well. There's early action and there's early decision. Early decision is what we call binding. It's a commitment. It's a contract basically that you sign, which means that if that college accepts you and you applied via early decision application, you have to go to that school. With early action, you're still applying early, but there's no commitment attached to it. You don't have to go to that school if they accept you. So that is all that I wanted to say about that slide. How many schools or how many applications should students have? There is not a magic number that we share that works for all students. Of course, it varies from student to student, and everybody's situation is different. But we do want students to make sure that they're applying to, or they have at least one school in each of those three categories that you see on the slide. So first, some REACH schools. Those are the most selective schools on the list. Some range schools whose numbers our students are meeting. And then some safety schools. Those are backup plans that we know we can absolutely get into just in case. So most students will have maybe a few in each area. Of course, we don't recommend that students apply to 25 plus schools, even though it does happen every year, but it just becomes overwhelming for students. They become very stressed out. There's a lot of requirements. It's also very costly. Each application costs money. So we absolutely don't recommend that many. However, whatever you and your student decide, we're here to support you. Other supplemental application materials. So in addition to submitting the application, the colleges will require other supplemental materials, and you see some of them listed on the slide. It is the student's responsibility to first see what those supplemental materials are, but then also to make sure that those are sent. Some of these areas we don't have any access to, for example, test scores. A lot of students believe mistakenly that we send their test scores on their behalf, but we do not. We actually don't always have access to those scores even. So it's the student's responsibility to send their supplemental application materials. Recommendation letters. So a lot of the times colleges will require students to submit teacher and or counselor recommendation letters, and they will find all of that information on the website. Once they start going through the application process, it will tell them exactly what is required. In the instance when a counselor recommendation is required, of course, we're more than happy to submit that for your student. What we will need from them, however, is a counselor recommendation form that we have on our website. We have it in our office as well. We can also email it to our students and parents who are asking for it. Sometimes students will bring us a copy of their resume. I think in certain classes they are working on those or have been working on their resume, so we will accept that. Sometimes students bring us their own portfolios that they made. So whatever it is that they have that they think would be beneficial for us to have, we will gladly accept it all. We do ask that those are turned in to us in advance. It's a busy application process right now, so it takes a lot of time. We don't use AI or ChatGPT. We actually sit down and write those letters, and it takes a while. So a month would be ideal, but of course, if it's shorter of a time frame, we will still write it. But we do prefer the more time that you give us, the better the letter will be, basically. And same goes for teachers. Like I mentioned, it's a busy time for teachers as well. They have a lot of students that are asking them for those letters right now. So please make sure that you let your students know to ask us in advance. Top 10 application mistakes. I'm not going to go over every single one of them, but you do see them on the slide before you. Some very common one is, of course, misspellings, grammatical errors. A lot of the time students don't proofread before they submit something. So definitely reading, proofreading. They're allowed to show their application to their English teachers to proofread their essays. Of course, parents are welcome to help as well. Let's see, inappropriate email addresses. So a lot of our students, well, I'm not going to say a lot, some of our students created email addresses maybe when they were young and they were being funny and silly and created some inappropriate email addresses. So, and that's the address that became their common main email address that they use, and unfortunately colleges do see that, and it's just not a good look. So if you could please encourage your students to maybe create more professional new email addresses that they use for college admission process. Not checking email regularly is huge. That is how colleges will communicate with our students. That is also how we communicate with students, and a lot of the times they are missing certain requirements and the colleges are reaching out to them, but unfortunately students are not checking and missing that communication. And then last big one, I would say, is letting someone else complete applications. So first, of course, the ChatGPT, AI is becoming huge, and a lot of our students are becoming smarter about using that technology. However, colleges are becoming smarter as well. So there is software that will catch it. There is software that will penalize them for it. So please, please, please talk to your students about submitting their own work. And there are a bunch of AI catching free websites where you can put or submit your essay and see what the result is if you're ever curious. And outside of AI, letting someone else complete applications, for example, parents. And I know the thought behind it is good. Oftentimes we want to make it easier for our students, thinking that we're helping, but in reality, we're doing quite the opposite. We're not preparing them to be independent. We're not preparing them for success. Soon they're going to leave parents and they're going to be on their own. And unfortunately, mom and dad won't be able to be there forever. So this is a good opportunity to allow your students some independence and have them work on it themselves with your help. You can still absolutely help them with their essays, help them with their applications, review it before they submit it. But I would discourage from completing the whole process on their behalf. I had a student last year in my office who told me they applied to colleges. And when I asked, which colleges did you apply to? They said, I don't know. My mom did my Common App. So again, I don't think in this situation it is to the student's benefit when they don't even know what colleges they applied to. So that's just our recommendation. Now, how to request transcripts. Of course, when we're applying to colleges, colleges will want to see students' grades. So first of all, if a student is applying anywhere in Georgia, to a college in Georgia, they can use georgiafutures.org. Most of our students already have an account there. And what this account allows them to do is it allows them to send their transcript themselves for free to any college in Georgia. It's fast. Like I said, it's free. They don't have to ask anybody to do it. They can do it themselves as long as that college is in Georgia. Now, if the college is outside of Georgia that they're applying to, they will have to go through My Payments Plus. On My Payments Plus, they will pay a one-time fee, $5, and then that will allow us to submit their transcripts on School Links. I believe Ms. Lemenk mentioned School Links. This is a software that we are using, and we talked to your students about School Links. All of them have an account there. We have a really nice PowerPoint on School Links. If you need that, feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to send it to you as well. But your students have it or should have it. And it walks them through how to add their schools on School Links, how to request transcripts, and all of that in detail. But students make that one-time payment, $5, and then we submit their transcript to as many schools as they have on School Links. If, however, a student for whatever reason needs a physical copy of their transcript, sometimes they need that because they're applying, let's say, to a scholarship, and that scholarship is requiring them to mail the transcript, they will also purchase it on My Payments Plus, and every physical copy will be $5. So it's $5 per each physical copy. And then on My Payments Plus, there is an option to indicate where you would like the school to mail it. So if it's college admissions that are requiring a physical copy, we're happy to send it there as long as you provide that address, or if it's a scholarship agency, we will also certainly send it there as long as the address is provided. Obstacles your students may face when applying to school. So of course, the first few have to do with a lot of feelings of anxiety and fear when applying. And this is of course not uncommon. And we try to validate all of those feelings and tell our students that it's okay. It is unknown. It's your future. And of course, you're going to be nervous about it. We're expecting you right now at 16, 17, 18 years old to figure out what you would like to do when you're in your 40s. I don't even know what I would like to do in my 40s, let alone you at 16 or 17. So please help us validate those feelings. It's okay. It's part of the process to feel a little bit stressed, to feel a little bit anxious and worried. But oftentimes what I tell my students, it's a good sign. To me, that means that you care about your future. And we've all been there before, so we've all, I'm sure, felt those feelings. So again, it's part of the process, but we are here to support you and your students. So please, please, please encourage your students to step by, talk to their counselor, schedule an appointment, talk to Ms. Ramos, who's a wonderful resource as well. But a lot of the times, unfortunately, those fears lead to procrastination and to feeling so overwhelmed that they don't even know where to start. But again, we are here to support. So please absolutely use us as a resource. Sometimes there might be pressures from family members to attend a certain college. And again, I would say parents, please allow your students to kind of navigate that on primarily on their own with your help, with your guidance, but they need to be excited about this. They need to want to go to this college because at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones studying there. And then, of course, there are financial worries. And the next presentation, Ms. Salo will walk us through how to finance your college's education. So, Ms. Salo, take it away.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I was trying to get a little thing to come up. So hopefully y'all can see me now and hear me. I got my camera and mic turned on, I believe. So I'm going to talk to you guys about financing your students' education and how to make college more affordable. So one way to do that is through scholarships and grants. So we tell the kids this is free money. That's money that they don't have to pay back. They have scholarships and grants for a lot of different things. Some are tied to academics, some are athletics, some are miscellaneous. My favorite one to tell the students is if you have any left-handed students, I always say, hey, is there any left-handed kids out there? There's a scholarship just for being left-handed. There's actually several. I looked it up just recently because a student was like, is there really? And I was like, yeah. So we looked up together. There's quite a few. So there's scholarships for all kinds of different things. There's also financial aid. So that's available to students meeting basic eligibility requirements. Some are regardless of age or family income. Some are need-based. Then there's loans. So we say that's borrowed money. That's money that they have to pay back. Parents and guardians, you can take out loans to help your student with their education. Students can also take out loans. And again, that's things they have to pay back, typically with interest. And then there's the military. So if a student agrees to serve with the military, they'll, for X number of years, they'll agree to pay X amount of their schooling. So the scholarship process, start looking now. Hopefully your students maybe started last school year. If not, no worries. Now is a great time to start looking for those scholarships. A good place to start is on our website. So if you, it's specifically on Ms. Ramos's website. So if you go to Parkview's homepage, click under counseling, click where it says College and Career Center, go to Ms. Ramos's site. She has a special tab, just it says like financial aid and scholarships, and she has a lot of different scholarships on there. She has different search engines that students can put in their info, and it matches scholarships based on their answers. So a lot of stuff is available on our website and it's free. You do not have to pay for that. And Ms. Ramos is there as well. So if a student clicks on something and has a question, she's there to help with that. Also check with the students' individual colleges. So colleges have scholarships just for their students. So there's some scholarships you apply to that you can use no matter what school you go to. And then there's some scholarships that are college specific. So just kind of look on those websites and be aware of due dates, because if there is a college specific scholarship, a lot of times they do want students to apply earlier, usually during first semester, but just check their websites to see for sure. They have their own financial aid site on within that college's website. Those are some popular internet sites there. Check with your work where you're working right now. There might be scholarships out there for your students. And when the students work, sometimes like there's like Chick-fil-A and QT, there's a lot of different employment places where students work and they have scholarships for students going to college. Again, Ms. Ramos, excellent resource there. And there's a lot of different scholarships within the community as well. And within our own county, there's the Gwinnett Foundation scholarships. Those are on our county's website. Those are scholarships just specifically for our students. And since the scholarship process can be kind of lengthy, not a lot of students actually apply. So if your student does apply, they have really good chances of getting them. Another one that's not on here is the Big Futures. That's through College Board. There's a lot of scholarships for students through that site as well. Some points to consider regarding scholarships. Be sure to note the eligibility requirements. Students need to make sure they actually qualify for that scholarship. Look at those application, the procedures, and the deadlines. And remember, if they do require any recommendation letters, be sure to give counselors or teachers or community recommender plenty of notice. It's important to keep grades and test scores up because some are merit-based that are tied to your grades, or the students' grades, or their SAT or ACT test scores. Keep up with deadlines. I still use paper, so I write things down on a calendar, but I know your students, sometimes they'll use their phone or some other type of way, so just help them to stay organized. They need to gather all the information that needs to be sent, whether that's transcripts, recommendation letters, those types of things. They can contact the college and request scholarship information. So again, individual colleges, and make sure that they're keeping a copy of the applications they are submitting, so that way they know who to hear back from. And don't discard a scholarship due on the smaller amount. Those small scholarships do add up to large ones. So if you get one that you see is like for 5,000, but then you get some that are for 500, if you get a few for 500, that can add up to thousands. So just never discredit the scholarship based on the amount. Okay, so next I'm going to talk to you guys about Hope Scholarship and Zell Miller Scholarship. These are tuition scholarships for Georgia students going to Georgia schools. And they pay for either some or all of the tuition. So how do you qualify? So students, the Hope and Zell Miller GPA will be determined after students graduate. So this is determined like in June, okay? In order to qualify for the Hope Scholarship, students must have a 3.0 core GPA, okay? So that's different than the overall GPA. When you see their transcript, that's all of their classes. But the core classes are only language arts, science, social studies, math, and world language classes, okay? So all of those classes are their core classes. So students do have to have a 3.0 core GPA, and they have to have 4 classes from the academic rigor list. Now, in Gwinnett County, we make our students take a rigorous course load. Just as an example, we make our students take chemistry and physics. Both of those courses are on there. Those second, third, fourth years of world languages, those are on there. A lot of our fourth math courses like statistics and pre-calculus, a lot of those courses are on there. But if you're like me and your students are in your double checker, they do have those rigor lists on that Georgia Futures website. What Hope Scholarship does is it pays for a portion of tuition to Georgia public schools, and it pays a set amount to the private schools because they're more expensive. So that amount is listed there. And we always say a portion. Currently, for this year's students that are starting this fall in college, it's actually paying all of the tuition, but that's not every year. Each year in March, the Georgia governing body votes on how much the Hope Scholarship is going to pay for. So just remember, it is a portion. Even if your student starts off and they pay for it all, it does change annually, okay? And they do have those award charts on Georgia Future. So if you're just curious to see how much how much Hope would pay for if your student went to, Kennesaw or Georgia Southern, and you can see how much they would pay at those schools. And then Zell Miller Scholarship, it's a little bit different than Hope Scholarship. Zell Miller actually pays for all of the tuition at Georgia Public Schools, and then it does pay that same set amount at private schools. But because Zell Miller pays more, it's a little bit more challenging to get. So students do have to have a 3.7 core GPA. And in one sitting, so that's one testing date, on the SAT, they have to have a 1200, or on the ACT, they have to have a composite score of at least 25. Now that number is updated each January. It's been 25 for the past couple years, but that is something just to note. Make sure you check that in January. And that's one sitting. So let's say they took it at the school last year in March, and they didn't quite get that 1200. That's okay. They can try again for October, but they don't combine scores for Zell Miller. Like sometimes colleges will combine the highest SAT scores. Zell Miller does not do that. It has to be one testing date, so one sitting of that. Or if they're valedictorian or salutatorian. And again, they have to maintain a certain GPA in college to keep it. So to keep Hope, they have to maintain that 3.0. To keep Zell Miller, they have to maintain that 3.3 in college. Now, Hope Scholarship, let's say your student, they tried their hardest. They just didn't quite get that 3.0 core. They got that 2.8. So they were really close, but they just didn't quite get it. They can earn Hope Scholarship when they get to college. Zell Miller, however, can only be earned right out of high school. So if a student, got close to Zell Miller range, but didn't quite get that, and then in college they do really well, they can't earn Zell Miller. That's just right out of high school, okay? And again, those award charts are available on Georgia Futures. Okay, so the Hope and Zell Miller Scholarship, those are for degree programs. So that's for an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. So those 2 or 4-year degrees. Hope and Zell Miller Grant are for certificate or diploma programs at Georgia Technical Schools. They do have a few certificate diploma programs at the University System of Georgia schools, but most of these are at the technical schools in Georgia. And there is no high school GPA minimum to earn the Hope or Zell Miller Grant. And they don't have to be full-time in college to earn that either. Hope Grant, similar to Hope Scholarship, will pay a portion of the tuition, and Zell Miller will pay that full tuition. So how this would work is a student, like I said, there's no high school GPA minimum. They do have to maintain a certain GPA in college to keep Hope Grant. So they do have to maintain that 2.0 to keep Hope Grant. But let's say they started college, they did really well going for that certificate or diploma program. And at the end of the first semester, they ended up getting a 3.5. So that Hope Grant started out paying a portion. But if they get that 3.5 after that first semester in college, Zell Miller will cover that. They'll go back and cover that first semester, and they'll cover their next semester. So Hope that makes sense. If you have questions, just reach out to your student's counselor. And again, this is for the certificate or diploma programs at mostly the technical schools, and they do have award charts on Georgia Futures for these as well. And then Hope Career Grants. Y'all remember earlier we were telling you about those in-demand industry fields. So right now in Georgia, there are 18 industry fields, which they have more jobs than people to fill them. And Georgia wants to make sure that we have enough skilled workers, so they are going to pay for the training for these programs. So if you looked for any of those programs and you were like, hey, student, have you seen that? If it's something they're interested in, they can get that training paid for, and there's a job waiting for them. So if you want more information, I did list those sites on there, that tcsg.edu. If your student goes to that one, and I think they can click on free tuition, they can actually look up one of those industry fields, and it tells you all the colleges in Georgia that have that program. So super great resource. The next thing I want to tell you guys about is the FAFSA. So that's the free application for federal student aid. This is how students apply for federal grants and loans. This is also how they apply for the Hope or Zell Miller Scholarship, okay? But students have to fill this out every year. So starting with this year, they have to fill this out every year that they need aid, okay? This FAFSA is supposed to open, we say supposed to, fingers crossed, on October the 1st. The past few years, FAFSA has had some issues opening, but they've been doing beta testing and things like that, so we're hopeful that it's going to open up on October 1st. And years ago, we used to have students apply for college in the fall and financial aid in the spring. But now colleges actually are encouraging families to apply for college and financial aid at the same time. So that's where, when this opens, we encourage you all to go ahead and get that started. You will have to have an FSA ID. I believe it's kind of like your signature. The parent and guardians will need one, and the student will need one. So if you sit down and get ready to do that, you got to have that first. So just know it takes a little bit to get that FSA ID. But if you do have questions about the FAFSA, you can always call them. They're very helpful. I had to do it a lot when I was applying for financial aid. You can also have your student meet with Ms. Ramos, and we're going to have an event soon where we'll let you guys know about, and you can get some extra help. And they do have like FAFSA completion events and things like that around the county. So just so you know, help is there, and the FAFSA is something to fill out every year that the student needs aid. And I do want to mention that if your student wants to fill this out just to see if they qualify for grants or just for the Hope Scholarship and they qualify for loans, they don't have to take the loans. They only have to take what they need or what they would like to have to help fund their education. So Ms. LeManc shared about Georgia Futures, super great website. Another great reason why we love this website is that you can look up the information about Hope and Zell Miller Scholarship, those state aid programs. They also have FAFSA help through this website. They talk about those federal grants and loans. They also have a scholarship search on there. So when your student clicks on that, they can enter in their information and match scholarships based on their answers. They do have this little site called College Money Matters, and that really helps students with budgeting, because I know you and I know that things cost money and there's bills and stuff after you graduate, but sometimes students don't really think about the cost of like car insurance, or they don't think of the cost of their cell phone, like they're thinking of, how am I going to fund college? Well, how are you going to pay for these other things too? So it's just a really good budgeting tool just to try to help them get financially fit before they're graduating. Okay, so I told you guys we're having an event for help. So on Tuesday, November the 18th, we're going to have a Financing Your Students College Education Night. We're going to have some guest speakers. So we're going to have Mr. Hal Wilkinson. He's from the Georgia Student Finance Commission. Those are the people over the Hope or Zell Miller Scholarship. So he's going to tell you all the wonderful state aid programs. And then we have Mrs. Stephanie Flores. She's from Georgia Gwinnett College, and she's going to talk about the federal funding side. So she goes a little bit more into FAFSA. And after this event, they may even have some before, but I know the Georgia Student Finance will have a lot of FAFSA completion events. So if that's something you're interested in or need help with, you can come to this event, get an overview of those programs, and then find out when those next ones are. And we'll probably list some on our website as well. But again, that's on Tuesday, November 18th at 6:30. It's going to be in our theater. So we hope to see you all there. This one is in person. And I did just want to thank you all. I know we just gave you a whole bunch of information, but hopefully we either taught you something new or gave you some ways you can help support your student during this time, because like we told your students, they are not alone. You are not alone. We are here to help and support. That is our goal, to help you all and your students. And I do know that we did have some people that came in a little bit late. So I did want to say that we did record this. We are hoping to put it on our website soon. It might take a couple of weeks to put it on there. And all the counselors have a copy of these slides. So if you miss some or just want a copy, feel free to reach out to your student's assigned counselor and we can send you this presentation. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. So the other counselors, Miss Marty Rosie and Miss Brewer, Miss LeManc, was there anything in the chat that you felt needed to be addressed to the group? I couldn't see the chat.
Yes, there is a question that just came up that we haven't had a chance to respond to. And it's basically a question asking about scholarships and them requiring a transcripts and letters of recommendations. So with scholarships, it depends on the scholarship. Sometimes they will ask for our information and they will send us the link where we can submit the transcripts and letters of recommendation for your students' behalf. But other times they ask the students to submit it. So if it's something where a student is able to submit it themselves, then they can find a copy of their unofficial transcript on Student View under Documents. So it just depends on the scholarship. I don't know what exactly that specific scholarship is asking, but if it's something that you guys can submit, then you can get it from the documents on Student View. If it needs to be official, sometimes they ask for it to be mailed, and we talked about how to purchase the physical copy on My Payments Plus and have it mailed to that agency. Or, like I said, sometimes they reach out to us with a link where we will upload it for the student's behalf. Yep, you're welcome.
Great. And again, thank you all for attending. I think I'm going to go ahead and log off if there's nothing else. But we do appreciate your time. We know it's late, but we appreciate it. And we hope you found it helpful. And have a great night.
Bye.